Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater. I'm coming to you from a secret hidden location in Tarzana, California. We're at Mix LA with Chris Lord Alge. Great to see you, man.
Great to see you, Mitch. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be here again in your minimalist abode.
I know I'm finally thinning things down to just console speakers, but it's taken me a long
You haven't thinned down at all.
No, I guess not. It seems like it's spreading worse. But hey, it's all part of your toolbox, isn't it?
That's
so
it,
it's all
exactly.
the paint set, big paint set.
Exactly. And that's what we're here to talk about today, because you have a new tool for the toolbox that you've been working on with Black Lion Audio.
Yes, well, Black Lion Audio, they are perfectionists, okay? And when this project came, this idea came up, okay? Because it wasn't about a plug-in. It wasn't about making a copy. It was about making an exact duplicate, about really taking the sound of something that's really different and seeing if it's possible to make another one.
Right.
Okay? Because I never thought it was possible.
Yeah.
But they made it possible.
Right.
So, for me, in my studio, the most important piece of gear, besides my ears, is the original blue 1176 that I've had for like 30 years, Bluey, number one, that I've used on every lead vocal. Every single lead vocal, like 99.5% of all lead vocals. Now, obviously, some have gone through other limiters, but this is the go-to from Springsteen, Steven Tyler, My Chemical Romance, for Green Day. Every big record I've worked on, it's been this since the 80s, okay, since I first got my hands on it. And it's a sound I was never able to, to copy in a piece of hardware. We made a great emulation for software, but I was like, well, if this thing fails, I'm never going to be able to get the sound again because they're all different. Right. And this particular one is miswired. Someone modified it, miswired it, and it's a one of a kind. So for me, if I smell smoke, I'm grabbing that and my 59 Strat and running. But it's gotten to that. So when I was approached by John Haber and the gentleman from Black Lion, the big team, and we pulled it apart, looked at it, they spent hours and hours looking at it, documenting it, looking at actually making a parts list from top to bottom, and went through it. And I didn't think it was possible. But it's all handmade in their factory in Chicago. I mean, it's so beautiful inside. My face is on the circuit board, okay? Right. But, the thing about, making a new Fairchild or making a new 1176 or an LA3A, there's been so many knockoffs. Even Universal Audio can't really replicate their original equipment. Maybe they don't care, maybe they're moving forward. But for me, when I try to put something out with my name on it, if I'm gonna call something Bluey, it better be the personality of old number one.
Right.
And this thing really has it. And the really great part about it is it's priced so everyone can have one.
Right.
I kind of learned the pricing from John Haber. He's very smart, a very smart businessman about these products, okay? And I learned about pricing it with the reach of the user. I mean, I'm trying to make a tool for the users. It's like the other tools we've made, something to move on in the future and have. So the only thing different that we made was we put a mix knob on it, just to be different, just so it would stand out from the crowd. In the modern era, in the modern, times, a lot of this wet, dry thing is going on. And I see it where people are seasoning to taste. It's not just 100% or zero, And I came from the school where I never had a mix knob on any compressor ever, right? So when I realized that people would be used that for recording, they may want to have a little bit of the original signal breathe through. And it makes a lot of sense. So it actually makes the unit not look like a complete copy clone. It makes it stand out because you're saying, oh, what's that other knob for? Right. So, that was a good idea. So we really went down the road of sonically making it exactly the same and not splurging on things that don't matter, you know what I'm saying? So trying to keep the price point right without saying, oh, let's put the neon lighting in it. Let's try to find the exact same VU meter from the original. Well, that's just not feasible, right? So it was all about what they came up with. And they were very perplexed because a lot of it's how it's plugged in, where it's plugged in. It's +4 and +4 out, plugged into a console as an insert, and as a standalone piece. So it's really testing it on all those fronts. So, right. So we're really excited that it's been up at Sweetwater for sale for a while because we thought that, prototype 1 or 2 would be it. But it took a while until everyone was happy with the result. Right. And it's all handmade.
Right. Well, I had a chance to, I had one of the late prototypes right before the production units came out, had a chance to run some audio through it, and you mentioned the sonics, and there's a distinct difference with that compressor versus other of the same family or whatever that you would say.
It makes distortion. You know what I'm saying? I mean, look, if a compressor was, if you'd put the signal in and it didn't change it, then what's the point? So for me, it automatically turns it into a radio vocal or radio sound. It adds distortion, it adds mid-range, it adds texture, you know?
Right.
And to me, all analog devices that we used over the course of our careers, we use them because they added some personality. So this thing has got a lot of personality, just like me.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So yeah, we're pretty excited about it.
So you use it primarily on vocals? Because I ran guitar through it, kick drum, and with that mid-focus or mid-forward kind of tonality they had, just it seems to work on a lot of different sources.
It obviously stays in use as the vocal limiter. And since I have 4 of them and they're, you know, similar, right? So when I've run like a snare drum through it, it's like, whoa, that's magical.
Right.
So yeah, it's like now that there's going to be Bluey, I can actually use it on other things. So I'm actually excited to have a pair myself to try on lead guitars, you know, to try on drum, to try on room sounds or kick drums. Yeah, I'd only, you know, try it when I was just curious, because when you have something that's such a go-to for the lead vocal, you can't spare it.
Right.
And the only other time I've used it on like a snare drum was when I had a singer that for some reason this singer and that did not get along. They had a little bit of a bickering problem. So I'd use another limiter, okay? And it's been pretty rare because it's like anything goes through there, it's like a home run, home run. And this, you know, and this is not using anything in Pro Tools to help it. You know, sometimes I'm using EQ in Pro Tools to pre-EQ before it hits the board, but that's kind of it, right? There's nothing really else to help it. So, and because of the vintage sound quality, it kind of de-esses. You know, old circuitry doesn't let all that pesky high end through, you know, it kind of shapes it. So, yeah, I can't wait to try it on some instruments.
Yeah, well, from my experience, it sounds great on a wide range of different things. So let's talk a little bit more about the original unit. You said you got that back in the early 80s or 1980
like
or so?
mid-80s.
Right. And is it one of the very, very earliest ones? Because there were several generations
It's definitely
of those,
the
right?
Rev A.
Okay.
So it's the first revision, right? It's the first series. Now, I actually saw one at the Hit Factory in a rack. No, in a separate piece, because everyone was using black faces, right? And then I saw this blue one. Goes, hey, dude, what's the blue one? Is that any good? So I tried it on Tina Turner's lead vocal when I was doing Rough at the board, and I was like, wow, this works. This is really working. And at some point, I kept looking for them until I was able to buy one. And then that's the one I bought. And then obviously added more. And when I was mixing like Tim McGraw with Byron Gallimore in Nashville, right? He's like, man, put Bluey on it. That's where the nickname came from. Y'all got a Bluey in here? Where's Bluey at? So we couldn't mix one. There wasn't one record we could mix without Bluey. Like, so he bought one, and then we had one at the studio. So you got Bluey on, Tim? Can you put Bluey on Faith? You know, it was always that.
Right.
Like, can we get another Bluey for Faith? I swear to God, it was like that. That would fix it. You got that on Joe D. Messina. So it was always all those records that I mixed, always had this, Joe Cocker, whoever, right? Always had that. Was like, it would turn something that was pretty much lifeless to have life. It brought life from lifelessness. It was, it's the only thing I could say is that, and I learned this from Dan Hartman. Now, Dan Hartman, who was a producer I worked with, who's in Edgar Winter's band, and he produced Living in America and a bunch of things we did together, right? He introduced me to putting 1176s on guitars and on vocals. And he said, this is the magic thing. And then he said, yeah, even the blue one, if you get it, he said, if you get a good one, it's even better. Because they tended to be darker than the black ones. So he was the one to introduce me to how to use it. And the exact setting that I use is the Dan Hartman setting.
Okay.
Literally, 30, 18, 3/7, Dan Hartman, set the limiter like that and said, just put that on the vocal.
So how much do you squash then? How much are you
It could be moving
reducing?
10.
Yeah?
Sometimes it's banging, it's like a windshield wiper. I mean, if it's not like a windshield wiper, it's not enough. And really, the thing about compression is that if you look at it and get nervous, then it's a problem. So you have to just use your ears. So unless it's really moving, it's not exciting enough. And I remember when I was recording Rod Stewart once, and I looked back at it halfway through the recording and realized how much it was pegging. But it was forward. It was in your face, and it just was musical. So, what we do is creating music. We're just looking for a tool that can instantly make something appear like a finished product, you know. And I think that's what this does. It gives you that finished product sound.
Right.
And with Pro Tools and all that, you can prep how you go into it.
Sure, sure. But even if someone finds an original Blue Stripe, it's not going to sound like that one because, as you mentioned, it was miswired, and if I understand the story correctly, it's been modified as it was repaired through the years, and work's been done.
It's kind of hot rodding.
Right, right.
So, right, you can go spend whatever it's going to cost to find an original, but it's not a guarantee of the result. Right? They're all going to be different. I have 4. They're all different sonically. Okay, and I could patch the vocal through all 4, and you're like, ooh, that's not the same, or that's not as fast. So why take a chance on buying vintage? Look, I am as you know, I'm the vintage guy. I have all the vintage gear. There's none left. You know, Vintage King calls me. Kidding. Anyway, I'm used to that. So, but the biggest problem with vintage gear is that it changes from piece to piece. So now you can have 4 of these, 8 of these, whatever. You can depend on every single one on a live show or whatever, all having the same characteristic, same personality. And that, to me, is the most important part of it, is repeatability.
Right. So tell us a little bit about the process that Black Lion went through to recreate that. Were they in there? Did they pull it apart and like measure all the components, or how did they do that?
Pretty much they handcuffed me to my chair because they knew that I'd be upset.
I bet.
And they yanked it out of the rack, and they, you know, it was like Operation, like that game you buy when you're young.
Right.
Wrenched ankle, you know. So they pulled it all apart. So I'm like, okay, because I trust John Haber. Said John's like, Chris, don't worry, it'll still work, and we're done. I hope.
I hope.
So I let them have their way with it when I had time off, which is, when I traveled and did a teaching trip. I let them have their way with it, and I had complete faith in them because they understand it. So obviously they know a bit more what they did, but really they took it completely apart as much as they possibly could, right? Except for like solder joints, right? And they analyzed, how this thing's made. And it's, you got to remember, these are parts from the 60s versus parts you can currently acquire. So they were able to source out similar sounding components, find the original components. They were able to source out all the right stuff to make it work. Okay, they took it completely apart. I remember they were in my kitchen here with on a blanket when they first cracked it open to see what's going on in there, to see what the parts are.
Right, right.
Look, I think it's a great process, and they are the absolute best hot rodding company there is. They take things that are mediocre and turn them into amazing. That's what they do. Okay, so they don't make knockoffs or anything. They just take stuff and make it better. But here was take something and make it exactly the same because it's got the mystical voodoo. It's got a sound, it's got a thing, and if my signature's on the back, you're actually buying my opinion.
Right.
And they were able to conquer that, which I thought was just never going to happen. I thought it's going to be close, but it's
right.
It was pretty sick.
That's very impressive. How long did it take to do the whole process?
100 years and counting. So a couple of years.
Yeah.
A couple of years. It wasn't fast. A lot of it is, think about when they create these things and what kind of mentality is going on. A lot different than now. So luckily with the technology we have, you can look back into what was inside their brains in creation and try to mimic it. So, so I think it's, as we're in 2020 now, to bring the great tools, the great paintbrushes from the past and give them a new life. I think it's a great new chapter in audio.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think we should listen to your original and the new one, the Black Lion version, and let's hear what we hear.
Absolutely. Let's move on to that, Mitch. So what I'm doing is, let's just explain the A/B process. Real simple, okay? I have the original one, the Moneymaker, on 17. I have Bluey, the final revision, on 18. On the insert, both vocals are the exact same EQ, same whatever effect I have going in this mix, I just duplicated, right? And I've matched the levels. So what we're going to start doing is just listen to the song and go line by line in between. So you're going to hear the difference between the original and the new one. And to me, in a song where you're going back and forth between two lines, that continuity is so obvious, right? So that's the rules right there. So we're trying to make it as honest as possible. Both units are set exactly the same, okay? So It's like if I'm mixing this song, a number one goes out, well, guess what? We got old number two rocking. So we'll just play this song. It's a band called Track 45. And so we start with number one. Since we have space between the lines, it's funny enough we could do this, right?
She saw me with my head down and said, oh, what for? She saw me with my head down and said, oh, what for? I thought she could be the one to hold my heart, oh Lord. I asked her if she'd love me and she said 10-4. She said 10-4.
I'll leave it on. Now go back to Bluey now. Right?
Now I hold her hand in a public place. Now I hold her hand in a public place. She can't spend too long with me or she'll fall from grace. I asked her if she loved me and she said 10-4. No, she said 10-4.
Right, you close your eyes, it doesn't sound like anything changed.
Yeah,
And then solo.
To the river.
Now switch.
We're gonna find us a waterfall.
Switch again.
We're jumping in the saint and the sinner. I asked her if she loved me and she said 10-4. Oh, she said 10-4.
So pretty freaking cool how that works.
Yeah.
Now we can get it a little bit more.
We couldn't quit jumping in for the thrill
Let's try Bone
of
Dry.
it.
Right? So it's right in your face, Bone Dry.
Couldn't quit jumping in for the thrill of it.
This way it's exposed completely.
Until our wits' end was soaking wet. We looked at each other and we said 10-4. Oh, we said 10-4.
I got this switching thing down, you know. I think I should.
Yeah,
I think I could do
you
good at this.
have a
you know?
career. So
Now we're going down to the river.
Original, Black Lion Bluey,
We're gonna find us a waterfall.
1969.
We're jumping in the saint and the sinner.
2020.
We looked at each other and we said 10-4.
69.
We said 10-4.
So
there's when I close my eyes, I lose track of which one you're playing first. Or, I don't know which one I'm hearing after a few switches. I'm not counting or whatever. And there's no way I could identify and say, oh, that was the original. Oh, that was Bluey. There's no way.
well, the thing I notice, okay, because I'm so used to this particular sound, what I notice is there's this character in the low mid where the vocal feels really forward.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime I use a different limiter, it doesn't accomplish that. I don't get that forwardness. Now, what I'm processing it inside the box is not what matters. It's what are we hearing here, because we're getting the same exact signal to both. Okay,
Right.
so I'm giving you real experience, like a real mix. Like this is a song that I mixed, right? So this is a situation where I would use it. And I could say, wow, now, so here's the great thing for me. Now I have a lead vocal double, okay? My second Bluey is not the same. So Bluey 2 over here, which is 2020, can now give me a super accurate vocal double. I can get it perfect.
Right.
I've always had a little compromise because, it wouldn't phase as much, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So pretty good comparison there.
That is amazing.
So, I mean, that's as honest as I can be about it, We heard it dry, but we're hearing it in the place it was done, to be an insert in a chain. But, I mean, look, in your DAW, any way you plug it in, it's a similar effect.
Right.
So I built it to have the same amount of gain, impedance, and they're set exactly the same way that Dan Hartman showed me back in 1984, when I first started working together with him on, his solo record.
Right.
And he showed me, this is the setting that you're going to use for the rest of your life on an 1176.
Little did you know, right?
Little did he know that here I am with a whole, well, you know what? It's a good teacher is a good teacher. So.
There you go. There you go.
So,
Well, that's a very impressive demonstration. I truly cannot, I would not be able to tell you, blind test, which one I'm hearing. They're that close. So congratulations, very impressive. Chris, thanks so much. It's been a real treat to visit you here at Gear Central, we'll call it, and to just check out the amazing job you guys did on the Bluey. I mean, to my ears, it's indistinguishable.
Well, Mitch, you're the benchmark when it comes to this
Oh, I
stuff. I know you are. And, you know, our friendship goes for ways. And it's so happy to have you here. And I always trust your opinions. And, you know, when you're doing this.
Well, thank you for saying
Always
so.
a pleasure to have you here at Mix
Indeed.
LA.
Appreciate you hosting
And,
us.
Yes, always.
And we'll do it again soon.
You got it.
All right.
We'll see you soon.
Thank you for joining me here. We're in a secret location. I can't tell you where, but it's Tarzana, California. Chris Lord Alge, the Black Lion Audio Bluey. You got to check this thing out. I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater.